Without further ado, let's go into the first report of the top 5. Remember, the order is going to be random, so this doesn't mean that this is the winner, right? This is just one of the submissions. So in one of the reports that is in the top 5 is from Rigoberto Garcia. Rigoberto, congratulations for being in the top 5. So let's quickly open it up and play around with it a little bit. Now, what I like about the report is that I think you guys can agree with me. It's very simple in a meaning that you don't have overcrowded information. There's not like 6 different tables, 15 different visuals. You can easily understand what's really happening here. You have one chart that shows the reviews and the reviewers by year. Then you have another one which shows whether or not these reviews were helpful. So there was a flag of whether it's a helpful review or not. Then you have reviews sorted by rating, reviews by brand and categories. And you can also switch to a separate page, which is focusing on the rating system itself. So how many ratings per mark, how they're split into different organizations, sorry, not organizations, but manufacturers, the categories, and so forth, right? So the few things that I noticed, which I would recommend to just play around with. First of all, I don't know how many of you think the same way, but for me, whenever I saw this icon, it made me feel like this is something that I'm supposed to click on, especially because there's this hand showcasing the rating itself, right? It's kind of inviting me to click on it. And to my surprise, when I hover over it, nothing happens. When I click on it, nothing happens. So I was kind of disappointed in that, right? I was expecting something to happen. So the reason why I'm talking about this is I just want to emphasize on the fact, be careful as to what icons you use, what icons or images. Make sure that they're not something that can be misrepresented. This doesn't mean that this is, no, it's a bad experience or whatever. No, it's a very simple fix that Rigoberto can easily go to the report, just add a different icon, which doesn't even have the hand, just the markings or something like that. It's an easy fix, right? So icons is something that I would recommend to always take closer look at. Hey man, I know where I left off, right? Thanks for that, Derek. So that's one of the things. The other thing, and these are all small things, Rigoberto. So the other thing is this card for brands. Now it might have been just a last minute change, but the fact that this doesn't have an outline is just scratching my eyes out. Right? Again, it's a very quick fix, but if you look at it, right, everything seems okay. They have boundaries and everything. This one suddenly doesn't have. It makes me feel that maybe this is something that I'm supposed to be focusing on. If it's so, there should be some sort of an explanation of why I should be focusing on. Let's say if I would have 5 different pages and each and every one of them focuses on specific target KPI, then I would understand the principle of leaving one, for example, without the border, thus emphasizing on which one is the most important one. But in this case, it's just a quick oversight that might have happened as a last minute change, and it just pops into your eyes straight away. Like I said, very quick fix, nothing to worry about. What else? Right here. So if we go into the full screen or even zoom in, you can see I could zoom out a little bit and it's a little bit better. But if I just open up the report, do a fresh reload, you can see that there's a little bit of chart that goes outside of the boundaries. And the same goes here for this visual, here, here, and here. So be very careful on where you lock the visuals when it comes to canvases. The one thing that I can't emphasize enough is whenever you are developing a report, never trust the final design of Power BI Desktop that it's going to be the final solution that you see in the services. There's usually, they usually look very similar, but there are a lot of cases where it depends on the browser, it depends on the screen size. So what I usually recommend is whenever you think your design is getting at least the skeleton ready, right? Not talking about the colors or anything like that, but you have the basic charts created, you have the functions there and everything. Create a report, publish it to the services, and open up, create an embedded link and see the report as an embedded version. So for example, If we go here in the services, right, just go File, Publish to Web, have this link, and open it up in a separate window, just so you can see how it's going to be treated when you look at it as a separate report, right? That is one of the things. You can also do the same thing with different browsers. So try it on Edge, try it on Chrome, try it on Opera. I think those are the most common ones today, but I might be wrong. So just test the ones that you know are typically being used within the organization or within the user pool. This is also one of the reasons why it's so important when developing the reports, if it's for a company or if you're a consultant, to just ask the customer, so what are the typical most common browsers used within the organization, or so who is going to be using the report, right? The small little details matter a lot. So these things, what else? Switching between the pages, this is something I noticed. So you can see here we have the click to help, and this is a great approach. I like this. The reason why I like it so much is because you have these arrows that define exactly what you're talking about. And the other thing is you're dimming the background and not fully eliminating it. So you're kind of just creating an overlay for it, right? I like that. And I like also the fact that you can close the area just by clicking anywhere. It's very convenient. But if you look at these icons, and it's something that a lot of you might not notice at first, but trust me, after hundreds of reports, you start to notice these little things. Look at the position of these two items. When I switch between the pages, you can see it's not a lot. I'm guessing it's maybe like 5 or 10 pixels, but they're moving. And it might not be a big issue at first, right? But when you give this to the end users, trust me, somebody is going to give you a remark about this. And you're going to have to end up fixing this anyways. So might as well just make sure that whenever you have elements that are overlapping between the pages, that they have exactly the same coordinates. The easiest way on how you can do this is if you go to the element, general, properties, you can always check the size, and right here underneath it, position. Check these two settings. For example, we can see 118652. Go to the other page, properties. We can see it's 6 pixels. So if I move it there, now switching between the pages, would have the item in the same location. So small little things, but as I've always said, and as Federico always said a lot of times, is the details make the report, right? That is what makes the experience. The other things is I like the drill down, but there's one thing here, Rigoberto, that got me confused, right? And that is the fact that in the title of these two visuals, you have this exactly same approach. So you have reviews and reviewers by year, helpful reviews by year. When I click on this one, nothing happens because you're limited to a single level of year, okay? But on this one, I can click and zoom into the daily level, which makes me wonder, why not just add another segment here saying that this is by year, by day? And even that, what I would have probably done is I would have probably added all 3 levels of hierarchy, so year, month, and day, so that it's a lot easier for user to say and understand. For example, display units, go here, enable month, there we go. Just gonna give a full explanation of it. So 2016 is what I'm interested in. Click on it, go down to the monthly level, click on a month, go down to a daily level. That allows the user to just get the information a lot faster rather than just going from a year and then ending up with 365 columns, because every single day is going to have a column most likely. So just limit the amount of information you are presenting to a user at a given time. But all of these are very quick fixes. Overall, the report is good. I like the overlay. I like the clear filters button. Great job, Rigoberto. And yeah, again, congrats on getting into the top 5. The next submission is going to be, I've already opened it up. The next submission is going to be from Prathamesh. Congratulations, Prathamesh, for being in the top 5. Now let's go and see what you have done here. Hey, accidentally clicked the wrong button. When you try to be fast, but you fail miserably, it happens to the best of us. And as you can see, also to me. All right, let's open up it in full screen. So what I like about the report here from Pradhamesh is that the layout is consistent. And as you can see, the spacings are consistent on horizontal axis and also on the y-axis. So the spaces are unanimous across the board. Even here, with every single one of these segments, the same spaces are being taken into consideration. The thing that I love the most about this report is not even on a visual side, but it is what Pradhamesh has done on the data level. And that is he has grouped different categories into higher level aggregations. What I mean by this is, for example, you can see here there's TV accessories. If we look at the original data set, so for example, if I just create a column here, what was it? Categories, I think. Let's see. Categories and the ID for them. Yeah, you can see there's a bunch of them. And if I make a slicer from the same categories, you can see that, for example, if I go to TVs, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. We're gonna get to, there we go. You can see that there's a lot of different segments for TVs. TVs, home theaters, accessories, ceiling, wall mounts, da 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 da. So what Pradhamesh has done in this case is actually combine all of them in a single segment or group. So from a visual perspective and an end user perspective, this allows me to control and navigate this a lot more conveniently, right? This is what helps you to basically help the user understand what's being showcased to it, because there's no reason to add too much information, right? All those individual segments, they can be still kept as a second layer, but having these groups allows me to understand the overall situation. And this is what the page is all about. It's an overview. Now, what I have here as well are these segments. I can open it up and I can see different brands, how they're treated or how they're performing under each of these segments. I have the individual reviews. So for example, if I select the 5 reviews, I can see always in this chart right here, nice and neatly, how much of the whole bar am I actually utilizing right now with the properties that I have set. So in this case, it's going to be the TV accessories. And right here in the title, you can also see that this is dynamic. For example, if I choose Samsung, you can see it showcases to the user exactly what they have picked up. And again, it's a small little thing, but I think you guys can agree with me that this allows me to navigate the report a lot faster. Now, the one thing though that I didn't quite get without further looking into the report, Pradhamesh, is this part right here. So you have a dynamic title here as well. So for example, if I choose the same principle, TV accessories, Logitech, so far so good, Logitech, and then there's the product. I don't know what product is that. Is it the highest rated? Is it the first? Is it the most sold? Is it the worst sold? Like, I felt that this doesn't tell me what exactly I'm looking at. Maybe just having what you already have done in other cases is just having this information icon for the title would be beneficial so I can understand, okay, what am I looking at exactly? But otherwise, it left me kind of hung up for a second and trying to figure out, okay, that's a product. Cool. So if I select the rating 4, it's the same product. So is it the highest rated? Why is it not getting affected by the rating? Is it not cross-filtering? So it just basically created a scenario for me where I had more questions than answers. So always be careful about these. The idea what you've done there is great and it allows the user to understand exactly what's going on. But the last part is what confused me. This starting point, great. This part confused the hell out of me. Maybe I'm just not, at the top of the game and everybody else understood it, but it could be me. I'm not going to say I'm perfect. I could be the moron in this situation. Who knows? But it raised the question. So what else is here is I like the fact that you have utilized this. I've already seen you doing this in other report, but the idea here is just to showcase how drill down works. You don't necessarily always have to provide the textual information, which you do like here, but you also provide visual, right? Because everybody understands information differently. Somebody needs to have it more visually. Somebody just wants to read about it and understand it. When I open up the info panel, the only thing that struck me for a second was if I read this one, drill down each slice of the visual. Typically, when you're referring to a slice, you're talking about a donut or a pie chart. There are no slices in this particular setup. Again, maybe it's just me because I've been working with donuts and pie charts and explaining them to customers for far too long, but it's something I noticed. For the info overlay, the one thing that I wanted to emphasize though is these segments where you keep it without the background, so you kind of highlight it. I feel that it should have some sort of an overlay still, or at least some sort of boundaries, because it felt to me like these two segments were just cut out visually. It's just a styling thing, right? But it gave me an impression that this was not finished. Like until then, even these windows and everything feels, you can see the property, right? One of the things that I noticed straight away, rounded corners, rounded corners, rounded corners, rounded corners, rounded corners, except the logo, okay, fine, but rounded corners everywhere. Slicers, well, it's a different story. If I go here, rounded corners, and then these are just cut off. It's the small little things, right? And I'm gonna keep saying that because it really is. Trust me, the amount of times when I've created a report and I've gotten back a feedback and saying, hey, can you do this, and that, are basically very small things that I can do in a few minutes, but it just makes a lot of difference for the end user. Yeah, I've already shown this, but I really love these information icons that you explain to the user, for example, what is going to be used in this particular visual. So you have a sentiment score and you explain it. What does the sentiment score mean? What does it mean when it's -1, 0, or 1, right? What is the scale for it? Because without that, sure, I can read that it's a sentiment score, great. But what does it mean if it's 0.39? Is it good, bad, positive, negative? What does it mean, right? So this information icon allows me to understand it a little bit better. These slicers are here, very nicely put into the sort of navigation segment. So it means that you have a designated space for additional slicers. If we go to the status report, where we're looking more at the sentiment scores and how they're being segregated, you can see here that it's the same principle. The same colors are used across the board. So if the recommended is in slightly blue, purplish, pinkish, whatever the color is, right? Not gonna go and tell you the hex code for it, but it's the same everywhere. So it allows the user to, again, create the connection a lot faster. It allows him to navigate the report a lot quicker. I might have kept all of these slicers, the original ones, and added the product category, because I don't think you had it in the first. No, you didn't have them. So I might have kept these and added this one on top of it as a drop down. But that is my suggestion. Your approach is still good because I understand what you're doing here. You're focusing on the categories as the main driving force. So as soon as I want to, for example, go for car accessories, I choose it and then I look at the rest of it. Choose a single color and look how these products are being situated. Open up and see the particular, I think that's product category that's underneath it. At first, it might seem weird that, for example, you only have one category and that's the same category here. The reason for that is because when you don't have anything filtered out from the product category driving force, thank you, you can always choose one of them and see how many product categories you have underneath it. I would actually, even for review volume, maybe replace it with product categories so I can see who has the highest count of diversity, let's say like that, how many product categories each and every one of them has. But other than that, I like the fact that you also introduced visual switches to create a sentiment based on the title or text. The clear filters button, which is good. You always have a way of getting back. You have the navigation. The last thing that I wanted to quickly check, I didn't check this at first, but let's do this. Yeah, good. So what I was checking is whenever you have these information overlays, make sure that these overlays do not affect what's happening in the background. What I mean by this is make sure that these bookmarks do not take data with them. Hey man, it's probably the date. I'm telling you. If you have a date once every 4 years, it's bound to be cursed. You know, the stars are aligning, the werewolves are coming out, everything's falling apart. But yeah, so basically, if you apply any filters and open up an info layer, you can see that in the back, I still have my filters. So you don't create a situation where a person opening up an info overlay resets everything straight away. So for example, I go in, I click info, it resets everything, and then I have to figure out, okay, what did I choose again previously? So all these small little things. But yeah, that's going to be the main things about this report. So Pradamesh, congratulations again on being in the top 5. It's a very good report, very well designed, and I like the fact that you captured the essence of a drill down or pro report, as I would say. You're creating a report which allows you not to only see the overview, but also allows you to kind of take a glimpse behind the curtains and see what's beyond the visible results on the first layer, right? Congratulations to you. All right, let's go to the next one. That's a familiar name, guys, right? For those of you who have been participating in the events for a while, Esther, congratulations for being in the top 5. Let's open it up and see what you have done with this one. Let's open up the embedded version so that it gets a bit bigger. So what I like about the report is that it's not complex, right? Sure, it could be always more complex. Trust me, every single report can be created to a complexity where it's ridiculous. It's not always necessary. And this is what I like about this particular report. It's very simple. It gives you few controls over things. You have the color coding, which allows you to understand, okay, so here we're talking about ratings. Here we're talking about the sentiment, whether the recommendation is here or not. So basically, was it recommended or not? And then you just have the products and the number of ratings for a particular rating score. So you can always choose a brand, category, name, colors, or dimensions. You can choose it from the slicers. You do have the 3 cards. For the cards, the first thing I noticed is they are not aligned, right? The easiest way on how to align them is, remember guys, you're always gonna have this option. Let's open up a new page right here, or actually, let's open up a Power BI report. Whilst it's opening up, I'm gonna continue talking. So you have the total number of views, brands, and products. You have your average rating score. I would probably most likely add a number here so I can see exactly how much it is, because I can hover over it and see it's 4.37. But on initial glance, it's like, I don't know, maybe 4.4, because it's not really 4.5. It's not half of the star. It's a little bit less. So don't make people guess. You know, just add the value label here as well. Other than that, what I like about it is what I like and dislike about it at the same time. There are 2 ways on how you can control basically the same property. So right here, you have a title of top 5 brands by ratings and going down to the name. So brand and then name. So if I choose a brand, I go down to a product and I filter out this one to a particular brand as well. which is basically the same if I choose one particular brand here and then drill down on that, or if I expand on it, right? So you're basically creating the same information flow in two different variations. So what I would probably recommend is see if there's different hierarchy that you could use for this. Maybe it's the product category and then the name, and then you have the brands. So split it up from different dimensions so that the user can have more of an experience of slicing and dicing. So he can choose different dimensions to get to the wanted result. All right, I got the sample to work. Let's go here, bring this one here using the Microsoft built-in sample data that every single one of you has available by using this try a sample semantic model. Let's allow it to load in. The reason why I'm doing this is because I'm gonna create a card. Let's say the sales, have it like this, and also the background so we can see how it stands out. Perfect. I have 4, yeah, probably a little bit smaller. Yeah, let's go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see I purposely kind of positioned them in different spaces, right? Or actually something like this. The easiest way on how you can get perfect spacing between these is make sure you select all 4 of them. So all the items that you want to align are selected. Go to the Format tab here at the top, choose the tab for alignment, and distribute horizontally. Once you do that, the spaces between all the cards are going to be exactly the same. The thing that you need to take into account is that you need to define where things are going to start and where they're going to end. What I mean by this is, for example, if I put it something around here, so these are going to be my 4 items, format, align horizontally, you can see it distributes the space between them. So again, small little things, but it allows you to basically have things nice and neatly done without wasting too much time trying to figure out what's the spacing. So that goes for that. What else? I like the fact that I have this flag right here because I think it's also a very important flag because I can easily focus on whether or not the product itself was recommended by other people or not. That's one of the things. And the one thing that I noticed in this report is, well, actually, well, few things, but one of the things that I noticed is if I create a selection and I open up the info panel, you can see there's a bookmark with data following through. This is what I mentioned about the previous report where the data wasn't getting filtered out or cleared out. This one clears it out. The other thing about this info layout is the close button feels like it's hidden. Bottom right corner for something that you want to close is not a typical location. The most typical location is going to be top right because for every single application, well, top right or top left. For Mac users, the close is on the top left. The location of the button, just make sure that it's easy to be found by the end users. You have the reset, which is good. I can always get back to initial state. And similar to how it was for, I think it was for Pradamesh report. Yeah, for Pradamesh's report, is you have this card, similar, right? You have a card which tells me a product, but I have no idea what this product is. Is it the highest rated, the most reviewed? I don't know, the most sold? There's no reference to what this is. Is it just one random product? Like, I don't know what it is. Whilst I was playing around with it, so for example, if I go to Logitech where we have 2 different products, let's say I selected, I can see it's Logitech 915. If I look at the table, it seems like it's the one with the highest review count. Okay, let's go test the theory. Let's go for Sony, where I have 6 different products. Sorry, there we go. Sony, I'll look at the number of views, and this is Sony LBT. So that's one product. LBT is not the highest review product, so I have no idea what the card represents. It's a good idea to showcase something in the top, but what is it based upon? Because it's not by rating. Based on rating, this product should be number one, which unfortunately doesn't have a picture, but this is the number one. Based on the review count, also this is the top. So just to make sure that you think about all these interactions and everything. The one thing that I do just love about this report is the fact that Esther utilized the network visual because it's not a simple visual to find a use case for. And the way it works here is pretty cool. So you just select a category and it quickly showcases you, okay, so if you're looking at brand Sony, you have this amount of reviews for each and every one of these segments. And you can even see an outlier. There's 8 reviews which didn't have any rating, right? So you can have different ways or interactions and see, for example, okay, so if we add also Microsoft, we can see that in comparison, Sony had 1K reviews and Microsoft had 500 reviews. So 2 of them. And in total, we have 16 reviews which didn't have any rating. So it's always a matter of just going around the different interaction options, seeing the flexibility of the chart and so forth. But yeah, the cool thing about this is you can see how easily it is, for example, to use other visuals to control the same network chart, to limit the narrative to what is important to you. That is one thing. Last but not least, I would probably bring the title a little bit downwards. The reason? Spacing. You have spaces between the cards on the top and right here and here and here. Feels weird that you don't have a space between the title because you have it on a shape, right? Feels weird that the shape comes at the very top and not with a gap. Very small little thing, but as always, the devil's in the details, right? All right, but yeah, congratulations, Esther, on being in the top 5. I know you won one of the competitions. I know you've been in the top 5 a couple of times, so great job, and I'm happy to see you still coming to these challenges and submitting a report and improving. That's always great. All right, let's go to the next one. You guys ready? Next submission is by Toyin Taibo. And this is a name we've also seen before, actually a winner of one of the other challenges. So if we open it up and take a look at it, let's open up the embedded version just so it's a little bit larger. Now, this might have been a mistake on our side when we were creating and generating the link. Not sure, but always double check what page you save the report. So for example, by default, I'm opening up the second page, which is not probably what I wanted to do. So I'm not saying that this is Tony's fault. It might have been our fault as well. Things happen, right? We're only humans at the end of the day. We try to do our best, but things slip through cracks. What can I say? So what I like about this report is, again, looking at the layout and the way on how information flows. I like the fact that I can easily choose a brand. For example, I want to focus on Logitech. I can focus on products which are in a specific rating scale. And I can then choose what is recommended and what is not. And of course, I have a timeline. The one thing that you have it on the second page here is something that I felt is missing from the first page. And I wish there was an option to drill through, because I want to focus on Logitech. I want to focus on rating 5. I want to focus on products that are recommended. I see that there are 2 products. For the love of God, tell me, what are those 2 products? That is the one thing that I was missing the most when playing around with this report. If there would be some sort of option to drill through to this product page, it would just be perfect, right? Because I can easily come to this page and I have already pre-filtered based on Logitech, based on the scaling factors and everything that I chose before. But now it feels like there's an unnecessary step where I have to go find the product list, find the brand that I previously selected here, or the rating or whatever. So it just made me do more work that wasn't necessary. You could have done a different approach here. That's one thing. The other thing is the cards. What happened here, right? You have 4 of them. Make them a little bit smaller. Go into the formatting options, because this is probably the new card, right? Visual. New card visual has an option of defining how many rows and columns you have of cards. Force it to be 1 row so that these are smaller. You don't need all this white space at the sides. Because the one thing that's going to happen is people are not even going to notice this one. They're going to think that this is some sort of a button and then maybe accidentally interact with it and be like, oh, there's another card here. Again, to fix this probably takes a minute or two, right? It's not a big deal, but it does make a lot of, it does create a lot of impact. So that's one thing. Information overlay. Make sure you play around with the layer of things. Not the layer, but the order of layers. Because here you can see that the info layer is underneath the titles. And this can be easily configured or adjusted. So for example, if I have multiple items, let's say I'm gonna add a shape on top of it, insert shapes, just a rectangle or whatever it is. There we go. So you've done that. Make sure you go to View, enable the selection panel, and look at the order of things. Make sure that what needs to be in front is above the element that needs to be in the back. Sure, I can still click on the element and call it temporarily in front of everything else, but by default, it's going to be sitting in the back. So one of those things that just needs to be adjusted in order to make the greatest impression for the end users. And unfortunately, what I was saying is, because you created a dynamic approach for the info layer, clicking anywhere hides it. So I can't really even select one of these, for example, to force me to see what's written there. I don't know what's written there. So that's an issue. Other than that, like I said, I like the layout. I like that it's simple. I like the fact that here in the title, you had what I mentioned for Rigoberto's report, that you have written down the hierarchy. So if I click on a year, I go down to quarters. If I click on a quarter, I go down to months. And this is dynamic. It shows me exactly what I have selected, with the exception of days. I'm guessing you're using selected value measure here, but selected value only returns one particular day if you have selected one particular day. See, like this. If I select multiple days, you're giving the alternate result, which in this case says all day, but in reality, I'm only filtering out 4 days. So it's just an adjustment in the formula, not a big deal, can easily be done. But yeah, like I said, the one real thing that I was missing from this report is a way for me to keep everything I've set as filters on this page and go down to this page so I can see the exact products. That is the one thing that I was missing, like dear life of mine. Yeah, you can even have a product page, which is even better, right? You're focusing on it. But there's a missing connection between the first and the second page, at least for me. All right. But yeah, nevertheless, don't get discouraged, right? These things can be easily adjusted. You can easily make an even better report. And I just wanted to emphasize on the fact that every single one of you should be proud of you who even submitted a report. For those of you who got into the top 5, kudos to you. But for those of you who didn't get into the top 5, that doesn't mean that your report was bad, right? It just means that there were more things that could be improved and why you lost some additional points. That's it. Don't get discouraged by the fact that, for example, this is, let's say, my second or third attempt and I'm still not in the top 5. Yeah, maybe. Somebody got lucky and got very quickly into the design aspect and the drill down approach. Somebody took a little bit more time. I can tell you from my experience, when I started to work with Power BI, I very quickly, I'm going to quickly do a slight slip on the side, right? Some of you might have seen this. Some of you might have not seen this. There's a thing called the Dunning-Kruger curve, chart, effect. There's different names for it. But it's basically a line on how we're going through learning new things. We start off here, and there are two things that you measure: experience and confidence. Those can be even switched around. The principle doesn't change. You're measuring experience and confidence. You very quickly get here, which is the peak of Mount Stupid, my favorite location of all time. Because you get a lot of confidence without a lot of knowledge. This is what happens when you first start learning new things. Very quickly afterwards, once you get into the details of things, you get to this point, which is the valley of despair. And this is because you start to realize, well, goddamn, there's a lot more that I need to learn to fully utilize this. And I can tell you from my experience, I got here in about a month or two to the peak of Mount Stupid. I felt like at the top of the world. I could create basic charts, some basic calculations, life was great. Import Excel files, all was good. But then you start to realize, there's actually like 200 different data sources that can be used. Cool, I only know maybe 10 of them. Great. There's visuals. Visuals have formatting options. Apparently, every single visual has a particular design or, principle when they're supposed to be using. Great, didn't know that. Have to learn all of that. So I got into the Valley of Despair after like 2.5 months. And I can tell you, I spent here probably like 4 or 5 months. The reason for that is because I was trying to figure out what I want to focus on. Was it the visual aspect, the data modeling, or whatever it is? So every single one of us is going to go through this route, regardless of how much time it takes, whether you're an expert or not. Trust me, you're going to go through this. So just be ready and make sure you don't give up, because the only person who doesn't win is the one that gives up. All right. Last but not least, from the top 5 is a submission from Shraddha Jain. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. If not, I apologize up front. But yeah, let's open it up. Open up the embedded version and see what we have here. So what I like about this is that the report itself seems relatively simple. The one thing that kind of threw me off a little bit is that it felt like these are not aligned. Like, for example, these 3 cards and these 2 could also be the same size and just have the chart up until here, so you have more of a natural flow to the chart, right? So that's one. The other thing is, I like the idea of what you did here, but it confused me at first. What I mean by it is you have 2 segments of the shape and you have 2 different text boxes. One of them has a scroll. The other one is static because everything fits in. Trust me, somebody is going to tell you that I think something is broken here. Why I say that? This is from my personal experience. As soon as you have something like a moving part and then a static part right next to it, people get confused. So whether you separate it, whether you place this one at the top and then go a little bit lower with the moving part, just make sure that it feels like a natural flow for the information. That's one thing. The other thing is, I like the fact that the person creating this report actually took the time to unitomize the tooltips. What I mean by this, if I hover over our visuals, you can see that the tooltip is the same native tooltip that I can see here. Sure, there might be slight differences, but at least the color scheme and everything is the same. So it doesn't feel that for the user, it doesn't seem like he's hovering through 3 different experiences altogether. That's one. I like the fact that I can easily, like, there's a very prominent box that tells me, hey, the customer feedback, do you want to focus on the negative, neutral, or positive? Let's say I want to focus on positive. Okay, that's based on the sentiment. Good. Now, what else do I have here? I have the product ratings. The product ratings and top rated brands. You can see that the ratings are very close. If I remove the selection of positive, just so there's a little bit more diversity, right? The one thing that you're gonna notice here is the following. If you select one of the ratings here, this filters out this chart. And I think you can see where I'm going with this. There is no added benefit for this to filter out the top rated brands, because the top rated brands are all gonna be 5s and there's just gonna be a bunch of them, because you're filtering out one particular value. The same goes if I go for, 1, I can see the full list of them, but then the chart title itself doesn't really give me the full picture, because it's saying these are the top rated brands for 1, right? Kind of feels like, yeah, I think I'm missing something. So I would probably just remove the interaction between these two visuals and let the user see the top. The other visuals, like choosing a brand and that sort of stuff, makes sense. Using categories and that sort of thing makes sense. But having it to filter out to one specific value just kind of limits the flexibility of the user. I can create a filter, for example. I can create filters also through visuals and so forth, and I can easily clear all the selections and get back to the initial view, which is great. Hey man, that's a game for the next time, because we need to prepare for that, right? Let's hope this is not a common occurrence. But yeah, recommendation rate and everything. The one thing that I kind of felt is missing is we're focusing on brands, on categories, and so forth, but I don't really have a way where I could quickly compare the products themselves, right? It could be a secondary page, for example. It could have been maybe a switch between one of these. So for example, a visual switch here where I could switch between the brands and the products. Because the only option for me to investigate the products itself is going into most reviewed brands, which maybe isn't the case that I want to explore. If I click here, I see the categories and brands. But if I would want to see, so if this is the top rated brand, what are the products for this, right? There's no real way for me to find that easily. And that was one of the major drawbacks for this particular submission. But I like the fact that you tried to explain what you're doing here. This approach is not bad, but just think about it. Maybe it's something that you could utilize as an informational block or an informational overlay, right? Doesn't mean that you need to see this all the time. You might need it as a hint or help, but not necessarily as the denominator in your report, because this kind of feels like you're telling me, hey, this is going to be the most important part about it. Read it first before you touch anything else. But yeah, gone through the top 5. So let me just move the window for a second, find the right report. You can guys do the drum roll on your side. I'm going to join you in just a second. But the winner of the February submission challenge for Onyx Data Dataset is Ratmesh Saman. Congratulations, man. For those of you who had already seen the post from Onyx Data and knew who already was the winner, one thing I can tell you, these things, even if it was miscommunication, it was posted a little bit too early, it's never going to stop us from giving you feedback. We're here, like I said, to create an environment where you can learn, where you can develop new skills, where you can see on what you can improve upon. All of this doesn't matter. Things happen, posts get posted and things like that. But the main thing is we're here to help you to get your building Power BI report building skills to the next level. We want you to be able to create reports, or let's say so-called professional pro reports, where you can basically open up a report, see the results, and get some insights based on that. but the report itself allows you to investigate further and also see the cause for these things. So let's say product A is getting sold the most. Great. Why is it like that? Is it somebody specific who's selling it? Is it something that we sell only on weekends? Whatever it is, the reports try to answer those questions, not just showcase results. And that's what it's all about. But yeah, congratulations to every single one of you who submitted a report. I congratulate you on that. The first step towards getting a winner, right? The second congratulations goes to the top 5 reports. Great job, every single one of you. And third, congratulations to the winner. You did a good job. It's a simple report in the sense that it's easy to navigate and understand. Don't forget, guys, every single one of these reports is in the website. You can open it up, you can play around with it, you can download it, see how it's being set up, and so forth. Don't forget also that for these reports, this is the reason why we're asking for your LinkedIn. We might not know every single thing that Prathamesh, for example, did here. If you want to know how he did something in specific, this is the reason why you have the LinkedIn. You can open up the page, just message him. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? He's not going to reply? Well, you didn't lose anything, right? Never be afraid to ask questions. So, steady goes. Get better with the reports. We're here to support you in your journey. And I'll see you on the next challenge, which is going to actually start relatively soon. All right. Not going to waste any more of your times, guys. Thanks for joining me. I hope it was interesting and insightful. I hope that everybody learned some new interesting ideas or tips or tricks. And without further ado, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I'll see you in the next webinar. Bye, everyone.